Hello and Assalamualaikum. Welcome back to the Desi Power Hub podcast. Today I'm here with Adan and we're going to be talking about stepping out of your comfort zone. So, we all know what the term comfort zone means, but we might not understand how it ranges from people to people and the cost of staying in our comfort zone. So, we're going to be talking about the benefits, about the positives that we've seen in our own lives, and practical tips that you can take to step out of your own comfort zone and how it's gonna lead to growing a lot and learning a lot more.
For sure. So, hello everyone, and welcome to our podcast. And like Abir said, we're going to be talking about comfort zone. So, what is comfort zone? Well, comfort zone, as the name itself suggests, it means that you're staying in the zone that is comfortable for you, and you're avoiding the zones that might be uncomfortable for you, or that might require you to exert any sort of mental or physical effort. So, if I were to tell you more about it, once basically, if you don't want to put yourself through situations that bring you pain or anxiety or any sort of stress, then basically you're staying in your comfort zone when you're avoiding all of those situations. So in summary, comfort zone is about staying in the situations that bring you comfort, that make you feel at ease and then make you feel at safe, and avoiding situations that might threaten any sort of discomfort or any sort of exertion on your part.
Yeah, and I feel like if you are always gonna be in your comfort zone, you can't really grow. And I might be biased here, but I feel like in a lot of Pakistani households, we just get used to the regular flow of life and we just find it hard to actually step out and believe that we can grow and step out to actually proceed that growth. Like even this podcast for us, then is like stepping out of our comfort zone, isn't it? Because we're not used to having our voices recorded or planning out what we need to do or just talking on different subjects. But I think it's a cool step that's teaching us a lot of skills and a lot of ways on communicating with each other and communicating with other people too.
That is very true, Abhi. Because unless you do things that are unfamiliar for you won't learn about those things. And like you said,
Hmm.
starting this podcast is one example, and other examples definitely involve moving out of your house. Because especially in Desi households, as you mentioned, we grow up with the familiarity of having the comfort of our parents with us many times, and we just leave them to do most of the main stuff, right? And unless we have the opportunity to really go out and live on our own like you're doing right now and like I had the opportunity to do 2 years
Hmm.
ago, you really only when you go in that situation, in that new environment, that's when you learn about all of these new things. So
Yeah.
for sure.
And truth be
And
told, it might not always feel pleasant. Like when I had to, I'm pretty sure you too, like when we had to move out of our houses and try to live by ourselves, there was this suffocating, like just fear and anxiety and just the looming fear of me not wanting to do all of that. And that was there, but doesn't mean I avoided it and I didn't do it. I ended up doing it. We ended up doing it. And both of us grew so much from our experience. We appreciated our families a lot more. And I think it made us grow as people.
that is very true, Abir. I mean, I remember when I moved out of Lahore and moved to Islamabad in the first place. The first year was very challenging. Even doing very simple things like doing my laundry, doing my
Mm-hmm.
dishes, or cleaning up my space, it just took a lot of mental effort. And of
Yeah.
course, when you're in a new situation in a new environment where you don't know a lot of people, you're looking for a connection from people. You're looking for you have to have a social circle, right? Like because we are human beings, we need a social
Exactly.
circle around ourselves. And so being on our own in a city full of strangers is definitely not a comfortable situation.
Mm-hmm. And even like, so one of the weirdest things that happened to me was I would be staying up at night, like watching movie or something, and I would like almost be waiting for someone to tell me to be like, go to bed already. And then when I realized, oh wait, nobody's coming, I was like, huh, that's a weird feeling.
Yeah, I get it. You know, after when I've now that I've moved back to my family, I'm spending a lot of time with my family at the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just love being around my siblings, and I am surprised that I was away from them for 2 whole years, and I'm like, wow, that must have took a lot of
Yeah,
courage. I know it's
that's
something
so
very
cute.
simple, but just having your family around yourself is very
Mm-hmm.
comforting.
Exactly,
So
but we don't
yeah.
appreciate that until we step out, right?
Exactly. So
And
that brings us to really talking about what the comfort zone, what are the ways comfort zone can impact our lives and our
mhm.
growth.
So I feel like comfort zone is, it may seem like these are the big decisions, right? These are the big jumps, but it may also be in the small things. Like if you're waking up at 6 and you need to head for university and you need to reach there by 7 and you're just rushing and you're doing everything. Maybe stepping out of your comfort zone then is like making a small change and getting up at 5, getting yourself sorted, having time to relax for yourself, or just even the previous night taking 15 minutes out to organize whatever you have or whatever you need, and just constantly being trying to like improve yourself as a person, your system, your lifestyle. Even that is stepping out of your comfort zone. It doesn't necessarily have to be something big or grandiose.
That is 100% true. It can be something as basic as getting out of your bed
Mm-hmm.
and cleaning your room. So every small thing counts. But the thing is that, the attitude that you show towards little things in your life, many times this is the attitude that you show towards big things in your life as well. So,
Exactly.
like you said, right? Even doing
Mm-hmm.
something as simple as getting out of your bed when you all you want to do is just lay around, that requires effort. That requires you letting go of your comfort and putting yourself in a situation that requires exertion from your side. So, if you can do it
Definitely.
with discipline, as small as that, you can replicate the same discipline in big choices in your life as well. And this is there's
Exactly.
something that I've learned about anything. If you, because I feel like both of us, and I'm sure many of our listeners as well, we want to grow into remarkable individuals. But if you look around us, there is so much evidence around us in the world as well as in the nature that nothing worth something comes easy. Like for example, like in terms of growth at least. So if you want to grow, you have to go through something that's difficult. Because all of us can say that we value discipline, we value qualities like being brave, we value strength. But many times when people are put into a situation where they're required to be brave, or where they require strength, or where they require patience, many times they start worrying and they start kind of backing out because now was the time when they were actually required to show those values and actually practice those values, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly.
yeah, but if you want to grow, let me give you two examples, right? So, for example, when we are working out, we are working on physical health and we are working on building muscle. You know how muscle building works, right? Like you have to put
Mm-hmm.
your muscle into exertion and then it causes the muscle to kind of tear up. And
And
then
it's
only when
uncomfortable, right?
it is uncomfortable, it causes you pain, it causes you a lot of hard work as well, right? Because you get tired. And then it takes time as
Mm-hmm.
well. But it's all worth it because then you can grow into a more physically fit person.
Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to be like the amazing student or amazing person with a career, or I don't know, be a good Muslim, but do you want or do you have the discipline to actually pursue that, right? So it's not just about wanting to step out of your comfort zone, but also like taking the steps required to pursue that goal.
100%. 100%. You want to move to talking about what are the advantages of stepping out of
Mm-hmm.
your comfort zone. And I think you've already been doing that. And I will add my second example to that. They say that a bird cannot learn to fly unless it steps out of its nest, right? A bird cannot learn to fly staying in the
Mm-hmm.
nest. And what it
Yeah.
means is that you have to leave your comfort zone, essentially, the comfort of having your mother bring you food in your nest. Unless you step out of your nest and learn to fly yourself, only then you can be dependent on yourself. But
Yeah, for me, traveling alone, heading out, like I get anxious when I'm outside at nighttime, and overall just anxious when I have to go somewhere far by myself. And so that's something that I've been exploring a lot over the summer, where I organized a trip to go to a city here, and I was just so anxious that I couldn't think straight. I was nauseous. My legs would hurt because when I get anxious, I kind of tense up, but I pushed through. And on the next trip, it was a lot less. On the third trip, it was barely there. And I am so much more confident because of that, because I know that, oh, if I want to travel somewhere, I can organize that, I can get going. And all of the people that I met over there were new. Packed my bag and just headed out, met those people over there, made awesome friends and memories. But that would have never come if I hadn't pushed myself through the anxiety. And believe me, the anxiety was so real that at least on the first day, I was so anxious that I just couldn't think straight. I was nervous. I was tired because of just being so tense all the time. And I'm pretty sure, Adan, you can relate with that too. Like sometimes you need that growth. And in the end, you come out as a much better person.
Exactly. That is definitely very true, Abhi. I mean, I have so many examples in my whole life where I put myself into situations that felt uncomfortable for me, but eventually I got comfortable. I grew comfortable with them, right? I can apply that to public speaking, to making new connections professionally as well as in my personal life, putting myself into position in my professional life where I might previously have thought that maybe I've not got what it takes to be in that position.
And sometimes it feels like self-love, maybe watching Netflix or just chilling out at night. But sometimes self-love is actually putting yourself through the discipline, through the hard work that's required for you to have a better future, or have a better mental health, or achieving a better lifestyle overall.
Exactly. Because stepping out of your comfort zone does not mean that you're permanently putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation. Because what you're essentially doing is you're expanding your comfort zone. The things that feel uncomfortable today will become a part of you, your comfort zone, if you keep persisting.
Yeah, it's like working out, right? So the thing you're struggling with, that's your workout right now, will eventually become your warm-up, which is pretty cool.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah. And I feel like you have your whole life out in front of you. And I feel like that's a lot of what happens in the Pakistani household, that females especially, they just get used to the regular flow, get up, eat your breakfast, go to whatever, talk to family members, and just passing on your day mindlessly, even if you're a university student or if you're a stay-at-home mom or if you're a career person, you just get into that flow. And that's very unhealthy because you have so many years in front of you, and if you're never really growing from one year to the next, I mean, what are you doing? It's just not about career, it's about your own self too. Like you should pursue different hobbies or even develop relationship with your family members, but if you're not actively seeking to push yourself and establish a routine or keep on improving your systems, then you're staying stagnant and you're the same you that you were 5 years ago. Not necessarily saying that you should compete with other people, but you should definitely compete with yourself in a reasonable, healthy way.
I could not agree more with that. This is something I tell my siblings as well. I tell them, you're 14 years old right now, and in 5 and 10 years, you're going to be this many years old. So, do you want to know the same amount of things that you know at this
Mm-hmm.
point? Do you want to be the same kind of person that you are right now in 5, 7 years? And of course, the answer is no. So I tell them, if you want to grow, you have to put yourself into new situations. You have to face new challenges. Once you've faced a new challenge enough times, enough for
Mm-hmm.
you to know how to navigate around that challenge, only then you become comfortable. Only then you grow enough to face
Exactly.
those kind of challenges with ease.
Girl, do you remember O levels? Like, you remember I used to not study at all, and I was like the backbencher. And eventually, there's one quote that pushed me a lot was, "You don't want to look back and regret that you could have done a lot more." So that's the quote that really pushed me through my entire O levels, and because of that, I changed my
Wow.
shift from, oh, I'm a failure, to, oh, I can also do this. And after that, even like joining social work or socializing with people, I was 20% extroverted a few years ago, and now I'm like 70% extroverted, just because I kept on pushing myself. Initially, even like making the basic conversation, going to a classroom and be like, hey, how are you, what's your name, what have you been up to, even that was
Uh-huh.
so intimidating that it would feel like I'm just mentally gone. But the more I avoided that, the worse it got. But when I started confronting it and actually making an effort, fake it till you make it, eventually it started being a lot more natural, to the point
Yeah.
that now I get energy from those same interactions that would overwhelm me in the beginning.
That is such a lovely experience to hear about, Abir. I'm so happy that you were able to make that transition. And I am saying that because I understand it so much. For me personally, the regret of not trying always weighs out the failure, the fear of failure, right? I
Yeah,
would rather
yeah.
fail and live with the regret of not trying.
Hmm.
And yeah, and I think that is one really essential quality that you need if you want to step out of your comfort zone. You need to
Hmm.
let go of your fear of failure.
It's a beautiful experience, bro. And even you can see that in nature. Like, when a caterpillar is in its cocoon and it needs to step out and become a butterfly, well, it was doing that, and someone thought, oh, it's going through such a struggle. Let me just open the cocoon for it. It will be a lot more easier. But then it could never fly because apparently, when the caterpillar or the butterfly is now pushing itself out of its cocoon, that pressure, that difficulty
Yeah.
actually pushes blood or something in its wings so it can properly have movement afterwards. So if it never went through that
Mhm.
difficulty, if it never stepped out of its comfort zone, so to speak, it would never be able to fly eventually, right? And that's the beautiful thing because every day, if you can transform, if you can improve yourself, that is what makes life worth living.
Exactly. And it's reminding me of this one thing. It applies to all the creatures, right? Be it
Hmm.
butterflies, be it human beings, be it birds, that you
Yeah.
need to put yourself into challenging situations for you to be able to navigate those challenges with ease. You cannot live a comfortable life avoiding challenges and putting yourself in easy situations
Hmm.
because life does get tough. Life does never it's not going to be like life is going to be easy always. There are going to be times that are going to break you down. So you need
Exactly.
to build up that strength. And that strength cannot come from sitting in your room. It comes from
Hmm.
undergoing those stressful situations.
Yeah, and it can also apply to your religion, right? For example, I'm currently in a non-Muslim country, so it's hard for me to be consistent with my prayers and, it's prayer in public because for people it might be like, oh, what's this odd thing she's doing? Why is she like, I don't know, essentially hitting your head on the ground and stuff. People have asked me, what's this mat you're praying on? What are you doing? And stuff like that. But if I never did that, because it's so uncomfortable doing it, right? But if I never did that, one, obviously, I would never get my prayers in time because there's no designated prayer area that I can get. Like, it's not in my pocket. It depends on where I'm at that point.
Mm,
But secondly,
yeah,
the people who asked those questions and who saw me praying and who were curious about Islam because of that, that would have never happened.
yeah. And Abir, I stay in Pakistan and I've been in situations where I felt like the people around me were judging me for
Yeah,
adhering to religion.
I resonate with
Yeah,
that.
so yeah, but in the end, you gotta stick to your values, bro. You cannot change yourself
Mhm.
to the comfort of other people. Sometimes people get fed up with
Definitely.
this because it's your life. It's
Yeah. And this might seem a little bit controversial, but this is what a lot of us face when you have to talk to different family members in our family who might, essentially ठुंगे मारेंगे या ताने मारेंगे. But the more I kind of hid from them, the more I suffocated myself. So instead of just hiding from them, I think you should be open about who you are, what your principles are, and you shouldn't bend for someone else, especially when that someone else is pushing you in a negative direction, because that would in the end be harming you and they
exactly
wouldn't
why are you
care.
letting go of your liberty and confining yourself. It is something as simple, but in whenever
Mm,
I'm discussing topics like this, it reminds me of a person saying this thing, and he said, you're free, my friend. He said, you're
mm,
free. And it's something so simple, right?
mm,
We we are human beings. We are not slaves, right? We're free human beings. Why do we put
mm.
ourselves through
Exactly.
suppression on by ourselves?
And even that concept is just not internalized in people. You have to really think about that to internalize it, that you're a free human being. You can move yourself from one place to another, but you can also move things and people from
Yeah,
one place to another. It also is applicable in careers. One of my family members, so while he's doing a job, he will do a lot of certifications and then he'll apply to a much better job that has a much higher pay. It works for him. And I feel like it's very anxiety inducing stepping out of your comfort zone, trying to establish that you can be a lot more than your job kind of highlights you
Mhm.
for, and then applying to things you might think you might never get, because it's only when you get those things that you realize, oh wait, I was underestimating myself. And you could have never done that if you never stepped out
Exactly.
of your comfort
So I
zone.
think one thing for sure is that you cannot account anxiety inducing situations if you want to grow. Unless if you don't want to grow, it's fine. You can stay in your comfort zone. But if you want to grow and accomplish great things, you are going to face
Mhm.
discomfort and anxiety. You cannot avoid it. But if you want to grow, the best way is through it, not around it.
That is very well said, Evan. I just love how you said it. You have to grow through it, not around it. And so not only can this increase your personal growth and increased confidence, but it can also lead to newer experiences and learning and a lot of opportunities or a lot of doors that you never thought were accessible to you. Because if you're not going to knock on a door, you might never realize that, oh, it was open from the very first day. You just had to
Yeah.
knock on it and let yourself in. So what do you think people who want to like step out of their comfort zone, what are the practical tips that they can follow?
Sure. So I think it has a lot of do with your mindset about different things. We already talked about fear of failure, but I think two
Hmm.
more qualities that are very important if you want to step out of your comfort zone. Well, first, you need to be brave. You need to be brave enough to face challenging situations. And secondly, you have got to be humble. Of course, there's going to be time when you step out of your comfort zone and you fall face first on the ground. That's okay,
Uh-huh.
right?
I love that. I love that, Adin.
Yeah,
Just
because
having like a balance of both.
yeah, it's okay. We need to have a bit more humbling image of ourselves. We are human beings, and human beings make mistakes. And making mistakes does not mean that you're a failure. It just means that you tried. The real failure is
Yeah.
not even trying. So if you're already
Like
trying, you're
basically just
already winning.
uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like if you never try, if you never fail, that means you're never growing. And one of the ways to step out is like starting small, setting like goals and challenges that you can follow. So for me, like traveling alone, the first step was, okay, now let me go travel alone in my own community, have a self date or like a date with yourself. And I just never got that. I just couldn't. But now that I slowly started exploring it, it's also amazing. Or even if it's your career, the first step may be, okay, opening up a LinkedIn account, setting up your profile, and the next step could be looking at least 5 organizations that are hiring or that you're interested in, right?
for sure. You have to take a step. It doesn't matter how big of a step that is. I mean, personally, I know when I started looking for my jobs, one thing that I had to do was I had to reach out to a lot of people for advice. And that is not something that I've done a lot before. And honestly, at times you also kind of feel unsure if the person would want to talk about it, would want to take out time and talk to you about it, right? But you won't know unless you try.
Yeah, and I feel like another main thing is whatever you're trying to do, there's going to be content on that. So just prepare, just look at some videos. And like I learned is that socializing may first you have to be like hello, hi with that person, just say hi to them on a day-to-day basis, but then also ask them about what they're passionate about, what their hobbies are. Because when you start getting people to talk about themselves, the conversation becomes more natural and they feel a lot better in the conversation too.
Like you said, right? Comfort zone is not just about our personal or professional growth. It's also about the meaningful relationships that we can build once we step out of our comfort zone. And there is something that I actually want to talk about. I recently came across this thing which said that one failed friendship should not be the reason for why you stopped investing in
Exactly.
friendships, or one failed relationship or one hurt from a person doesn't mean that you stop believing in the goodness of people, right? So I think another essential thing that is required for you to step out of your comfort zone is have faith that regardless of the past negative experiences,
Mhm.
it does those past negative experiences don't mean that you cannot have any positive experiences in these arenas. Why would you give up on meaningful relationships in your life with your friends and loved ones just because of someone hurt you in the past? So why would you deprive yourself of those meaningful connections because of someone's negative actions? Right? So having this understanding that even if things were bad in the past does not mean they're always going to stay bad, is also something that is really important when you're trying to step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah,
Just having this realization that sometimes we might be avoiding those negative feelings because of something really hurtful that happened to us in the past, but the
exactly.
future does not necessarily have to
Exactly.
be the same as
I
the
totally
past.
agree with that. And sometimes pushing out your bigger comfort zone can be really challenging. And maybe if you seek support, obviously from the right people, or accountability, that also helps. Like if you're doing things as a group, like Adan, doing podcast episodes with you has made it a lot easier for me to be consistent and, pursue this thing because it's uncomfortable to do it alone too. Another thing for me, especially, is that sometimes pushing myself out of my comfort zone becomes too real to the point that I feel like the boundary blurs between pushing myself out of my comfort zone and realizing that you might be pushing yourself in the wrong direction. So you need to be able to distinguish the difference between that. It shouldn't be at the expense of, damage to your mental
Yeah,
health or damage to your own safety. Like I told you about the traveling part. So it is to some extent true that you need to push yourself, but sometimes stepping back doesn't mean that you're losing. Maybe stepping back because you feel like your safety may be compromised over there, or you might feel bad over there, and it's totally okay to do that. So push yourself, but also know that it's okay if you take a step back at some points. It's just as long as you're moving overall, that's what matters.
exactly. Stepping out of your comfort zone does not equate with overexerting yourself or putting your mental or physical well being at risk. So, all of our listeners, keep that in mind. Sometimes, if you're stepping out of a situation because it's harmful for your physical or mental well being, that's okay. But there is something I also want to talk about, that because many times it's only after we've been through that situation we realize that it had a negative impact on us. So, if that happens to you, forgive yourself for putting yourself in that situation and understand that you did not know that this was going to be bad for your mental health. Of course, it's it for example, it applies to situations like where you force yourself to go to a social situation or be a part of a social gathering where when you step out of it you feel really drained and you realize the people there or the whole environment didn't really resonate well with your values or with yourself. And then in the future, of course, you can avoid those, but don't really punish yourself or judge yourself for not knowing better before.
Very true that sometimes we don't realize when we're pushing ourselves too far. It's essential we know that it's okay. It's okay once in a while to step back if it's for your own mental health and your own well being, and as well as the well being of others around you. Yep, so that's it for today. And overall, today we discussed about what our comfort zone may look like and the costs of staying within your comfort zone and how it stagnates your life, stunts your growth, leaves you with a lot of regret in the future if you have missed opportunities. And we also shared guidelines on how to step out of your comfort zone and how to increase your confidence over time. And I hope you enjoyed the podcast. And if you did, we would appreciate any feedback, any ideas on what you would like future podcasts to be. Thank you so much and have a good day. Assalamu alaikum.